You want to make sure your fringe is looking great before we start.
I have no fringe today because you told me people laughed at it. I don't know if that's true or you're just trolling me, but just in case.
Okay, we're live. Hey everyone, welcome to the Run It One stream on check raising. Hopefully Alexandra knows all about check raising and we can learn lots from her. She's been stayed in this spot. We both coach for Run It Once Essential program, and during the stream, if you want to sign up to Run It Once Essential, you can get 50% off. There should be links in the chat coming up soon.
Yeah.
Alex?
Hi, I'm Alexandra and I don't have a fringe today. Yeah, as Paul said, we are both mid-stakes cash players and coaches for Running Twins. We're hosting these sessions weekly, so hopefully most of you know us by now. And yeah, the topic for today is check raising and also playing after check raising, because I think that's something that a lot of people have troubles with, and these are hands that we received from our students. So yeah, if you like our approach, make sure to join our Discord. We're going to host weekly free sessions there as well. Paul is going to link it in the chat. And that being said, I guess we can get into the hands.
Yep, let's go.
Okay, this is, what is this? 7 marks? 9 marks? I don't know. It's not a game I usually play, but we can definitely adjust. So we face a Limp from someone who's most likely a recreational, and then an ISO. Yeah, I think this hand can go either way. I guess the benefit of calling is getting to play against the recreational much more often, which is definitely something that we want and is often higher EV than, just 3-betting against the reg. On the other hand, there's already way more money into the pot than we see in a normal open raise spot. So, if we 3-bet and take the pot down pre-flop, that's also quite good for us. Paul, do you have any preferences here?
Yeah, in this spot, I would mostly just simplify to just call him with a hand like ace-5 suited. And the reason for that is when you have a 40 big blind recreational, they may be too volatile in the wrong way here. So when we go for a raise, they might start shoving hands that are weak and shouldn't be shoved, but are stronger than our hands. So you could think of hands like ace-9 off, ace-10 off, ace-jack off as well. So yeah, I think I would mostly prefer to just call here and try to keep the recreational in the pot, as that's where most of our win rate is going to be coming from long term anyway.
All right, we do go for a call, I imagine, because otherwise, how do we check raise? I mean, and now we face 1/3 bet, and I guess we decide to go for a check raise here. So I kind of have mixed feelings about this one. I don't think I like check raising with this particular hand, but what I would say is that I like that he's finding the check raises with bottom pairs, although bottom pairs that want to check raise here are going to be usually lower, like 5-4, 5-3. I'm not sure if we're gonna call those to a 4x opening size though. And then we are also going to have a lot of higher equity bluffs. I think if we do this, I prefer at least having a flush draw. I think this hand is probably better going into a calling range and not really including check raises. What do you think?
Yeah, I mostly agree with you. I think this check raise can be okay at a small frequency. I think it has some good properties in that we block hands like ace-jack, we block ace-9. We're going to get some better hands to fold sometimes as well. Mainly hands like sixes, sevens, pocket eights as well. So I don't mind it, but yeah, probably not doing it all that often. And Davide asks in the chat for you, Alexandra, what size would you use if you did 3-bet pre-flop? And also, just hello to everyone in the chat. It's nice and active today, so yeah, everyone.
Hi everyone. What size I would use here? I don't like making squeezies that are really big. I know there's some debate in the poker world about this. I think I would just go to something like 14 big blinds. That might seem a bit small, but from what I see in practice, smaller sizes kind of put people in a bit of a tougher spot. And that's because, they're actually not supposed to call very wide, especially in these tighter positions. So first of all, I think they would have quite some difficulties in terms of what to call. But then the other thing is, if we make it really big, they can just shove or fold in terms of four betting. So, and then their four bet amount doesn't need to be as high. But the smaller we go, the more they have to find click four bets in positions and other tricky stuff like that. And I think most opponents are going to make bigger mistakes against smaller sizing. So I would probably go to something like 14, 15 big blinds, not higher. But yeah, thinking about it twice, this guy being so short, I think I agree with Paul that we can often find some weird shoves from him, and that's not really something that we want to happen when we have ace five. So I think I agree with Paul that calling in this spot is probably better.
One thing I would say is, you were saying around about 14 big blinds. What do you think about going to maybe about 10 or 11 big blinds? Because I would imagine in this spot, if we want to squeeze a bit more often, we have to be aware of just villain 28 and how short stacked he is.
Well, the thing with going so small, that's why I just think, thinking about it twice, calling is just better. Because often the purpose of three betting this hand is that we get better ace-x to fold, but 10 big blinds here is just a click. I don't think it accomplishes that as much. I mean, because I don't think he's gonna ISO here stuff like ace 9 offsuit, and then when we go to like ace 10 suited, ace jack offsuit, stuff like that, I don't think it folds to such a small size. So yeah, I'd rather just call, I think.
Nice. Okay.
So yeah, again, this is gonna also get called by some worse hands. So I don't think it's terrible. I just think we need to be careful of our frequencies. And there's also some violent tendencies that we want to take into account here. So I think the more often I expect to face another bet on the turn, the more I like this. And also if I assume he range bets, again, the more I like this. But, if it's the opposite, the other way around, then I'd rather just go for a call. Anything else to say about flop?
No, I think everything's been said. Sounds good. Well, that's a nice turn.
For our hand. Is it a nice turn for our range? I don't think it's that bad, because if we think about it, yes, we're not gonna check raise many ace-x, but I mean, we're still gonna have some ace-jack, and I don't think he's going to bet call many ace-x either, except for the flush draws. So this is not a great card for us, but it's not terrible either, I don't think so. I think this is quite neutral, and we should probably have a medium frequency. But when we bet, I think we don't really want to overbet. I think we want to use something like a 3/4 pot size bet, and that's because that will still keep his underpairs like kings, queens, jack x in his range, while also allowing us to value bet a bit thinner, because we are going to check raise ace-x of clubs here as well, and I think that can value bet here as long as we keep our sizing small enough, so something like 3/4. And this hand, although in theory it might be mixed, I think in practice I would always just go for a bet, as there is so many, as I said, under pairs, but also draws, pair plus draws that could call us. So yeah, I think I in practice I would just go for a pure bet here, unless I'm against someone who I know is just gonna stab way too often in this scenario.
Yeah, I think it is quite interesting. I think they can potentially also have some weaker ace-x here, because I think that some ace queen, some ace king, especially with a club, is going to be calling the check raise on the flop. We didn't go for a huge check raise, so we can still get value from that portion as well. And I overall agree with you that I think this guy is going to be quite neutral, given that we are going to check raise ace five, ace nine, ace jack at some frequency, and the ace x of clubs as well at some frequency. And then villain is of course going to be calling with his ace five, ace nine, ace jack, and maybe some ace queen, ace king as well.
Yeah, although I do expect some of those ace kings, ace queen to fold without the club, so it's not like he still has all the ace x here, and obviously it depends on his c betting range. If he mixes, this becomes probably better for us. Yeah, I think this is fine. We get a call and reverse the deuce. So what you see in these scenarios is that we are going to have a very high betting frequency, because obviously some of our bluffs are going to be flush draws that now get there, but also our sets and better two pairs are still strong enough to bet. So here what you see in theory is that we want to mix between big size, so probably an all-in, and then a small size to accommodate our sets and, I don't know, maybe straights. We can have some 3-4 here, although that's not going to be super common, especially against 4x. But yeah, the idea is that we want to mix between a small size and a big size. I think this is going to be very close, especially when he can still have ace high flush draws. But I think I would prefer going for a small bet myself, because I don't think people tend to bluff enough in this line, so I don't really see him like check calling this. It's definitely not great, and I still think it's probably enough for sense that could call against 1/3, although I will admit I have a leak of betting too thin in this spot, just because I know check calling isn't great. So yeah, I think this is quite close between a check fold or a 1/3 fold. And the other reason I would bet is that I don't think people find enough raise bluffs here.
When you say a check fold, you mean versus an all-in size, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
I was just surprised when you said either a block fold or a check fold, because I think I agree with everything you said. Just wanted to clarify that point, because if I check here and villain bets, this is going to be I think a really good hand to call with. As long as even to an all-in size, I think at some frequency I'm calling this hand. What do you think? Because I think in this spot we're really doing a great job of unblocking, king queens, queen tens, 10-8s. Yeah, I think there's a bunch of hands there that could potentially bluff, and we're also doing a very good job of blocking. I don't think. Yeah, I mean, when we check and he goes for like a 30-40 big blind bet, I mean, even a jam, like we're blocking pocket fives, we're blocking aces.
yeah, I don't really think people are gonna jam pocket fives here, do you?
No, I don't think they'd jam pocket fives.
And then,
I think they might bet it for a smaller size, or then you're even going to get people at lower stakes just being way too nitty with those hands. But if he's choosing a non-all-in size, then I think that this actually does become quite a nice bluff catcher.
I'm not sure really, because I totally agree with you if we were like, I don't know, cutoff limping button ISOing, but this is quite a tight range spot, and I don't really think they're gonna have king queen. Are they always gonna bet call flop and then call turn? I'm not sure if king queen always calls turn. After all, it's just a gut shot. And then I don't think he's gonna have those 10-8 suited as often, or queen 10 offsuit, so with these ranges I think there's less bluffs available, but I'm sure he's always going to have the flushes.
Yeah, I think it's important then to note there that if I agree with what you're saying, and maybe against villain 29, we have to be very aware of who this guy is, right? Because if we're playing lower stakes and this guy is, a 20 VPIP tight regular, then I agree with you. I think it just becomes a much easier check fold, even, against most sizes. But if we're playing against, a regular who's more, 28 VP and is a decent regular, then I think he can be there with a lot more with a bunch of those hands.
Yeah, I guess it's quite a tough spot, I would say. I'm not really sure about this. But do you think this hand is still worth one third size? Because what do we. I mean, we don't need to get called by worse very often when we bet one third, but there's still a bunch of hands that beat us. Flush ace sets, ace jack, ace nine.
Yeah. Okay, so you go for the check.
He checks back. I guess we don't see whole cards.
Ah, that's such a shame.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm not sure which side this has been played on, but it would be nice to see hand histories. I think a check is
Yeah,
fine. I really don't want to face a bet though. That's such a grim spot.
yeah. I think one thing for Hero in this spot is to definitely take a note of the hand that he turned up with here. Because this could definitely be a spot that this guy just massively underbluffs on river, and we just have easier spots in the future against him. So yeah, depending on what his hand is, I'd be for sure taking a note here.
I don't think he can see it either.
Oh really? Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that's why it's not in the replay. Okay, cool. Sorry guys, I've had a rum and coke, so I'm not completely with it today. Cheers.
Uh, okay, should we go next then?
Yeah, let's do
Yeah, cheers. I'm having water.
it. Spicy water.
Spicy water. Okay, we call against two big blinds. I think if he goes bigger, like 2.5 from these positions, this hand is actually very close. And in high rake environments, actually a fold, I think. But it's a call against 2x. And he goes very close to pot. Right. I don't think it's a mistake to check raise this hand, but against this size, it should be quite low frequency, and it is quite close. I've actually been looking into some spots where imposition is betting very big, and apparently we are meant to check raise small and quite thin, and that's just because we are not doing great, and our equity realization is much worse when we just call. But it's quite a weird spot, and I think I need to dive a bit deeper into it. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is that apparently we want to raise this hand more often than I thought, even against big sizes. But I would go smaller if we decide to raise, because what we're trying to accomplish is basically, either getting some random hands like, I don't know, King Jack with the backdoor flash draw to call or fold or put them in a tough spot, but we are not, like, this is not a hand that wants to, get a lot of value or go for stacks. If you think about his range as well, again, this is not a position where he's supposed to open a lot of queen 10 offsuit, so it's not like we're doing great with this hand. He still has all the overpairs and high equity draws and so on. What do you think?
Just before I give my thoughts on this spot, Davide said, what kind of nutted hands would you include in the block bet range? So in the last hand on the river, personally, I think that you want to put some of your flushes in there. I think actually put in some of your ace-x flushes into this range is going to be very nice, because you're going to block some calls from his ace-5, ace-9, ace-jack. And of course, you can comfortably call a shove. You may also just get the worst flush draws, then jam in as well. At least that's what it's intended to do when you block an ace-x of clubs on the river. What about yourself, Alex?
Well, I think the most common size that we're going to use on this river is 1/3. So the shove size is going to be used by some nut flushes and maybe some second nut flushes, and the second nut flushes are probably going to be the ones like if we show up here with like king 3, king 4, stuff like that, rather than something like king queen, because we want them to have a smaller flush. But yeah, most of our flushes are going to go into the smaller bet, and then the better ones are going to shove. Although it can be a bit of a tricky one because the solver, when it goes one third, assumes that imposition is going to have, value raises but also bluff raises. So it's also getting value by villain raising with his bluffs. So I think in theory we don't need to protect our one third range as much, but still the lower flushes here are not really worth an all in. So I'm not sure if that was too ambiguous or if it answered your question, but basically most of the flushes I would just put into a one third size, and then some of them I would shove. The ones that I would shove, I would like them to be an ace with a low card or a king with a low card.
I would still just shove some of my jack high flushes here. Sorry, we can't have jack high flushes. Say our queen high flushes, I would still just shove here just because I think villain is going to be able to hero call them with some ace king with the king of clubs or ace king with the ace of clubs type of stuff as well. But yeah, we don't need to stay on this spot too much longer. I think we addressed the points. So yeah, when we get onto this spot, I completely agree with you. I think this hand is very close. I think we could sometimes raise it. I wouldn't be raising it too often. Again, on a flush draw board, it's not that great when we don't hold a diamond, right? Because sometimes, just under a quarter of the time, the run out is gonna bring a flush in, and that's not great for our hand. So, yeah, I would personally be raising sometimes here, but I wouldn't be choosing the size that villain went to. And again, similar thoughts to Alexandra. We're not really putting much of his range in a tough spot, and we will accomplish the same thing happening with a smaller check raise.
Yeah, although in this exact spot, when we don't have a diamond, I mean the ace of diamonds, we can have the 10 of diamonds, at least we are gonna get called by a lot of flush draws, which are worse than our hand, so that allows him to have a lot more worse hands. I don't actually think it's a problem here not to have a diamond, but again, I would go to something like 10 big blinds, not this big. I think this becomes, like when we go this big against the pot size in these positions, I think this becomes quite an overplay.
Yeah, I agree. French Fun says here on the 10-6-3 board, your check raise size gives 2.5 to 1 to villain. In a nutshell, what things in your framework make you choose between giving 2.1, 3.1, or 4.1 odds? Or 4 to 1 odds?
Well, it's just the way that the ranges are constructed, because here, when we raise, we mostly raise to basically to improve our equity realization, because it's just not a spot where we want to face double barrels. It's not a spot where we raise because we have a lot of advantage or anything. Although we do have threes that villain might not have, sixes I think he could still have, but yeah, it's not about what odds we give him, it's about what our range can sustain. And I'm not saying necessarily that going desizing is a mistake, it's just that we probably should raise, just 2 pair plus and very little ace 10 if we use this size. So yeah, it's about how often we want to check raise and how we construct our range. And if we want to be this wide, we need to go for a smaller sizing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. We'll find out in the chat if it doesn't make sense to others.
Okay, so again, once we face a pot size bet and we go for a check raise with a hand like this, we need to be very, very careful on the turn. This turn does improve some of our bluffs, which is good for us and probably allows us to bet more often, because we can check raise some 6-7 sometimes, especially with the flush draw. It actually should be check raise. 5-4 gets there, 8-9 gets there. So yeah, this is actually a good turn for us, but this doesn't mean we should start betting merge here. And again, if we continue with this hand, I feel like it's either quite a big overplay or it's almost turning it into a bluff. So I would like to see a check with this hand pretty much always with this action. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's awkward because of the size we chose on the flop. I wouldn't go as far to say that it's turning our hand into a bluff here because villain should be continuing with a bunch of worse 10x. But I do agree with you that it is becoming a little bit too thin. Again, this turn is really good for us. We're going to be check raising 4-5. We're going to check raise him 8-9. Um, so yeah, I could see us continuing here at some frequency for maybe a 66% sizing. Uh, but yeah, I'm not sure. I think I agree with you. I think checking back is going to be good as well. We're also like a bit deeper than 100 big blinds as well to start the hand. So yeah, I think you might be right. Like if, it's definitely going to become maybe too thin on river if we continue betting here. Um, yeah.
Yeah, again, like with the worst 10x, I mean, I'm not sure who this guy is and what kind of field you're playing in, but he shouldn't, like, King 10 offsuit preflop should be a mixed open or maybe a fold. Queen 10 is probably a pure fold. And then, there's not actually as many worst 10x. Like, he's going to have King 10 suited, he's going to have Queen 10 suited, but there's just two combos of each, and then he's going to have all the overpairs here. So, I,
Yeah,
I,
he's going to have Jack 10 suited. He's going to have 10-9 suited. He's going to have some 10-8 suited. Maybe not all of those go into the sizing on the flop, but it's not that
yeah,
he
that's
never has those. And again, King 10 suited is, I mean, he opens for min, right? So that's probably a pure open, and that's quite a few combos. I think even Queen 10. No, I don't think Queen 10 off, but yeah, definitely. I would expect King 10 to be in here at a high frequency, but yeah, don't need to go too much into the details. Just slightly different thoughts there.
yeah, yeah. Again, like I think this would be much different if you bet one third on the flop. That we can still go for value here, but against the pot size bet, I'm not sure. All those lower 10x are going to be in his range. So yeah,
Um, Forge First asks, is this a single raise pot with a check raise flop or a three bet with a C bet on the flop? And yeah, this is actually a single raise pot with a check raise. So not like his question is almost like answering our feeling here, right? We don't really want to be in a single raise pot this size with this hand, right?
yeah, exactly.
I think I'd prefer on the turn if we had one of if we'd have check raised. Well, I'm thinking if we had a better check raise with 10-8 or 10-9, I would even prefer that type of hand on the turn rather than ace 10 in some ways. Although ace 10 does have outs against his overcards as well. So yeah, I don't know. But now we're in this spot where the SPR, the stack to pot ratio is just one and bit of a weird spot.
Yeah, it is a bit of a weird spot because now, even though his flush draw don't get there, again it's a tight range spot, and I think a lot of his flush draws are going to be king X, like king 9, king
Yeah.
queen, king 10, not really, um,
King Jack.
king jack as well. So yeah, I think this is like I don't really see the point of betting here anymore.
Even
Um,
King 5, King 6, King 7 should be opens at some frequency as well in these spots. I mean, nearly pure probably, especially King 6 and King 7 and when you open for 2x. So
yeah,
yeah, I agree with you that there's just there's actually quite a lot of King X in his range, I think here. I think it's just time to shut down here, right?
yeah, I agree. Oh,
We managed to win. Nice.
um, yeah, nice one. I wish I knew what he had.
Yeah, this is the only downside when you can't see the hands. We can't know how much of a reg or recreational the player
And
we were playing against it.
imagine we went. Oops, sorry. Imagine we went through all of these thoughts and he just shows up here with like deuces, and then we're like,
Yeah,
okay.
exactly. This is the thing is like I think it's quite important for the chat, right? Because if Villain 37 is a recreational player, like this check raise on flop and barrel on turn is actually completely fine against a bunch of those guys, you know?
Yeah, I guess even then it depends because a lot of them just have huge sizing piles.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Okay, should we go next then?
Yeah, let's do it.
I don't know why Hold the Manager does this. I cannot move that button, but I assume this is a 1/4, considering the odds here. And we decided to go for a check raise. I think this is nice that our hero finds this. I think a lot of people in game don't really realize, first of all, how wide the button range is, and then the fact that he's probably range betting. And I think a lot of people just think, I don't have ace king and king queen, so I shouldn't really check raise. But we are actually supposed to check raise a bunch of our trips here. Having hearts, I think, is nice because he's still forced to call us with a lot of backdoor flush draws, with a lot of under pairs. So I'm not saying we need to do this pure, but what I'm saying is a mistake if we never do this. So yeah, I like this play. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it is a really nice play, and I definitely agree with your thoughts on using this type of hand as a check raise, specifically with hearts, because it is quite important that villain 43 has a lot of hands in his range with backdoor flushes that he continues versus this check raise. So yeah, I think this is a nice play so far. Seems good.
And we
Let me
just get the
just
fold.
get fold. Okay, so while we're just on this subject of like looking at check raises, I just thought I'd let everyone in the chat know that Alexandra is currently producing a video on playing check raises, and of course during this stream you can get 50% off Run It Once Essential. I'll put the link in the chat now for you guys to have a look at that as well. If you want to jump to the next hand.
Yep. Also, on our Discord study sessions, you can send us hands that we can look over on check raising or different topics. So yeah, if you'd like that, make sure to also join our Discord.
Everyone's just going to be a beast now when we start playing poker, and everyone's check raising every spot, and we won't know what or we will know what to do, but we won't expect all the check raises.
Do we have that many viewers?
41 at the moment, so good amount.
Okay, so this is a Limp pot. I think, just checking.
Just before we before we go on to this hand, we just got a question. So for Forge First says, in theory, it's a small check raise size. In practice, villain type matters a lot. Maniacs don't check raise. Fish all day with small sizings, etc. So yeah, just the same as what we said. Really, if the guy's a big recreational, it's not a huge. It's not as big of a mistake to choose a bigger check raise size against a recreational.
Sausage can tell you all about it.
Yeah, we currently have a student that uses very big sizes against recreationals and gets paid off a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, and we're sometimes reviewing hands and looking at it. I think that's too big. He's never gonna call with, and then we see like some really weird hand that just calls him down, and like, okay.
yeah. Very good.
Right.
Okay, so this is a limp pot, right?
Yes. I think the check raise here is fine, but I don't think it's actually a bluff. I think it's more like a mergey check raise, because I don't really see a lot of better hands that fold here, that bet pot and then fold, but I think he can have a lot of like random king x or stuff like that that's actually going to call us. I think we don't have to check raises, because and the reason I want to mention that is that just a lot of people see they have a combo draw with the ace of spades and are like, this should always be a check raise. I think especially depending on villain, this hand can also be a really fine check call, and then you can also put it into a delayed check raise line. But yeah, this is by no means wrong. It's just mentioning that you don't need to do this all the time. What do you think?
Yeah, one thing I just wanted to also mention is just pre-flop. When we've done some database reviews, I've seen players that are isolating with this type of hand against the recreational. And I just wanted to mention that I think this is quite nice that our hero here just called. And the reason for that is if you start to isolate with a hand like ace-4 off, you're very often going to get calls by hands like ace-7, ace-8 off, ace-9 off, ace-10 off, and that's just really, really bad for a hand like ace-4. And then approaching the flop in a limp pot is a bit of a weird one because a leak of recreational players is that they play very face-up in limp pots, and when he's betting close to pots, I think it's going to be very indicative of his hand strength. So I don't, again, it's never going to be a mistake to check raise here, but I do agree with Alexandra that I don't think we need to always check raise this, and I actually think that maybe just letting him continue a little bit too much on turns and going for a check raise there may be better sometimes as well.
Yeah, I agree. And he just folds. I think our students just put a filter for check raising and just send us all the hands that they were check raising in. So most of them, I mean, some of them are just gonna be check raise fold, but I still think there are interesting concepts to talk about. So we don't only need to talk about hands that we get in 100 big blinds, because those are gonna be infrequent spots, and we are actually improving by reviewing the smaller spots as well. It's probably gonna matter more for our win rate.
Yeah, I agree.
Again, same scenario as on King X, although this one is probably, I mean, it depends. This really depends on how we construct our big blind 3-betting range. I've actually done some studying with different ranges, and this board is going to be very different if we have a very polar big blind 3-betting range where we go for a 3-bet with a lot of low suited and offsuit ace-x, especially the offsuit ones. If we 3-bet a lot of those, this is going to be much worse for us, but if we don't, this is going to be much better. And yeah, if we don't 3-bet our offsuit ace-x, then these ace-high boards are getting actually way worse for villain. So we should definitely have some check raises, and in terms of flush draws, I think these are actually the kind of flush draws that you want to check raise. A high card and a low card. I mentioned before, this is because you want him to have worse flush draws, and it's much easier for him to have worse flush draws when we have queen 4 and not queen jack. I guess that makes sense for everyone.
Even in blocking the 5-6 or 6-7 of clubs as well, which is going to be in his range.
Okay.
Oh, nice. Nice little click.
No, I don't think I would click here. I don't really see I think we're just losing value by doing this. I mean, yes, he's going to call wider, but in reality, we just want to get more value from his jack-x, from his ace-x plus backdoors, from his underpair. So I don't think we need to make it huge, but I would probably make it like 4.5 big blind or something. Any other thoughts here?
No, I agree with you. I think I think going for a bigger size is just going to be better. Again, if you looked at this spot in a solver, you're probably going to find a recreational is still just going to continue way too many hands, regardless of the size. So yeah, pick a bigger size with your stronger hands against recreationals for sure.
Yep. And here I like this. I would go, anything. Like I guess this is quite a best sizing to pick, because recreationals do tend to get a bit more elastic against overbet or pot sizes, and basically a jack would call anyway, but we probably want to keep his underpairs in his random combos. So I like this size, and now yeah, this is not amazing. I'm not sure if I would
What are you talking about? This is perfect. We've got a great hand here.
Yeah, I meant I'm not sure if I would shove or just call.
Oh, okay.
What do you think? I said I'm gonna
No,
fold.
yeah. I wasn't expecting you to ever fold any spot here.
What does that mean?
Means you're a station. Yeah, I mean, this is a bit of a weird spot, right? Because I think in this spot you can definitely just start finding some shoves, and villain's just going to start calling you off with like 6-7 off, and even like 7-8 off with a spade for no reason. well, depending on how big the recreational is, and then he's just not going to fold a pair ever. He's going to have flush draws. I wouldn't even be surprised to see just ace highs call in here sometimes, maybe even some random king queen type of hands as well. Like I think shove is nice. I think you probably get a lot of value with shove.
Yeah, and the other thing that we need to think about is, I mean, I'm not sure about that, but a lot of recreationals are just gonna, you know, not they don't really know what to do here facing a bet. They don't want to fold, so they raise. But I think this, if we call, this is gonna be a spot that they are not gonna bluff the river anymore.
Yeah.
So because
It,
of that, I think I prefer shoving. And if he has a
it,
better hand, we just stack off anyway. So
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say it almost feels like it's a pocket nines type of hand, right? That is just like um, really trying to just get a showdown without putting more money in against the five or a jack. But again, I don't expect that hand to ever start folding when we shove. So yeah, hopefully this is a different table where it's six max. Maybe we get to see the showdown.
that's exactly what I was thinking of. Do we have a telepathic connection? Yeah, I think I prefer shoving to calling here for the reason already mentioned, and now we hope this wasn't pocket nines.
What's
Okay,
happened here? Is this eight big blinds?
donk.
Hmm. What do I think of this? I think this is nice. Um, Yeah, I think this is nice given that what we just said, right, is that like on the turn when villain raises to this size, it feels very much like, well, hopefully, like we said, not pocket nines now, maybe a pocket eights or pocket sevens, maybe some jack X type hand. Um, and I think, we're often, as we said before, we saw the river, it's often just going to go check check on the river, hence why we wanted a shove. So in this spot, I actually think that going for the donk is going to be quite nice. I don't expect villain to ever really be folding a pair here. Um, yeah, I think I quite like this. What do you think?
Hmm, I guess if we assume he's not bluffing, but like he could still probably have stuff like 6 7, 8
Yeah,
6.
he can for sure still bluff, but I think this donk may even induce some bluffs as well. So like given the SPR, I'm not gonna ever be folding against the recreational, because they can just start finding a bluff with like 6 7 with a seven of spades, or um ace three with the ace of spades, or even a three of spades or whatever. So I think this gets value, and it still probably gets any bluffs that we're going to bluff to still bluff.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense.
I
Okay.
like I like the creativity around it, regardless of like even if it's not like if we ended up thinking it's not that great. I like the thought like the idea of it.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's probably better to make some mistakes from time to time, but think outside the box and, actually think about spots deeper than just autopiloting and clicking buttons. So, yeah, I agree with you.
I
No, I
want to
would
see a shove. I
have,
want to see a shove call. Then I was gonna say.
yeah. Well, we probably ended up losing less money. Maybe not. Maybe he would just be scared of the flash and check back the river. I don't know. But yeah, well played. Sometimes we get coolered against the rack. Not much to say. Um, right.
Okay.
Um, well, this one I know it's a thing in theory and shouldn't really be a three bad match against under the gun. Although when the guy is a recreational, of course this really depends because this guy could be like 48 1, no 48 VPIP 1 PFR, and in that case I would definitely call. But if this guy is, a more active recreational and he's like, I don't know, 41 28, then I'd like to see a 3 bet more.
Yeah, I agree. I think pre-flop here tens against the recreational. That's opening enough. Is more like queens or kings.
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
Ah, we have the nuts.
yes. So yeah, I would check raise here pretty much always, especially if he's a very, very low PFR guy. Um, I mean, again, with recreationals, it always depends on their tendencies, and maybe you're bored of me saying that by this point, but there are probably recreationals that we'd prefer to just check call here, especially if we have stats on them and their c-bet flop is like 90 and then their c-bet turn is like 90 or 80, then, there's some merit to calling, but they're just calling. But yeah, overall, I would go for a check raise. Any other thoughts?
No, yeah, completely agree with you. If it's a very active recreational and he's going to start putting in loads of money, we could go for a call. But yeah, mostly just going to be finding a check raise.
Okay, you just fold it.
Sad times.
Sad times. Again, here we face another recreational, and we decide to go for a check raise. Yeah, I'm not sure we need to do this with this hand. I think against these sides, a check call works just fine. I'm not. The problem with doing this with this particular hand is it might get some worse to call, but those are going to be draws that we're gonna have quite a tough time on the turn against, and then we're not really getting any better hand to fold. I don't think so. Maybe some ace nine, but yeah, that's very rare. And also the odds of calling are just great. We still beat a lot of his bluffs. So yeah, I don't think we need to do this.
Yeah, I don't. I really dislike this. I think when a recreational bets one big blind into you here and you have ace eight, this is quite a strong hand. But it's a strong hand in a, when we're check calling and his range is just full of the 7-8 off and the the all the random hands that villain can have here. Queen two off is supposed to be a fold pre, and a villain will be here stabbing with that type of hand. So, I mean, the wider he is, I suppose we can probably check raise a little bit more. But with this hand, I think I would just mostly go for a call here and just let him do his thing. I don't really want to be building a bigger pot here with a hand that can't really sustain a bigger pot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just trying to think of scenarios when this would be good because there are all kind of recreationals, and I think there are some, but that would be like if he's just stabbing every time, but he's doing this with trash, and then he bets bigger when he has something. I think then it would make sense just because you you get some protection against random cards, and
You'll deny a lot of equity as well.
Yeah, you deny a lot of equity or get protection, basically the same thing, said in a different way. But yeah, mostly just check calling.
Okay, yeah. Now we got ourselves into a weird spot, right? Like you get on the turn and it's like, okay, well, I guess I just check now, but yeah, don't really like the flop, and we go check. I guess there's not much to talk about there. And
yeah, it's like it's hard to talk about it because myself, I would probably almost never find myself in this spot. So
yeah, exactly.
it's a bit of a weird one,
Yeah. Let's jump to river then. 7 of spades. We go for check, and villain checks back is queen 10.
8-4.
King 10. Wow. Okay. I mean, I guess maybe we lost less.
Yeah. All right.
But,
should we do another hand and wrap it up?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Make it a good one.
Let's make it a good one. And before we wrap it up, just remember that you can get 50% of your essential membership during the stream and a few hours after the stream. So yeah, make sure not to miss out on this offer. And yeah, I'm going to have a video on check raises. So if you want to know more about it and about how to play turns after you check raise, this is your chance to get it cheaper.
Okay.
I think this is actually quite a close depending on rate structure and villain's PFR. I'm just mentioning that because I think it seems standard to some people, but actually if you pay a lot of rakes such as like GG 50 and L25 and L rec tables, for example, this is actually very marginal, especially if you face someone who's tight and aggressive post flop.
yeah, when you said that, I immediately had a funny look on my face because I was like, well, this just seems like an always defend and sometimes three bet. And then I looked at my 500 and out chat, and there's around 8% of fold. So yeah, if you're in a high rig environment, for sure, this becomes a fold.
Yeah.
Don't play in high rig environments.
Or table select well if you do.
Yeah.
Okay, so he bets small here, and we go for a check raise. Um, Again, like the problem that I see here is not the check raising, but the size used. And also, so I think we need to understand if we want to go for a merge check raise or for a polar check raise. And I think on this board, especially when he bets so small, we probably want to go for a bit of a merger check raise. So we want to construct a strategy that also offers protection to a lot of our hands. We could even go for check raise with like 5, 6s, some of our lower 9x, but then we need to use somewhat of a smaller sizing. So go like 6.5, maybe 7 big blinds. But once we start sizing up, then our check raising range needs to be a bit more polar, and this hand gets a bit closer. That's not saying this is a mistake, it's just that we need to become a bit more selective. And if we start raising queen 9 for a big sizing, although this is somewhere in between, we probably prefer having a backdoor flush draw or something to go with it. But yeah, this is fine. It's better than never finding it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think one thing to take note of here is the sizing that villain 66 use. I think on this 943 type of flop, we are going to want to use a much bigger size as imposition. And when you face this 1/3, we are going to want to check raise a lot more. But by check raising a lot more, our size does have to come down, as Alexandra said. So yeah, nice check raise. I would use a bit of a smaller size. GM Max Illingworth says in the chat that he managed to get a month's sub by playing a heads-up sit and go where the player was away the whole time. That's a nice life.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, about his flop size, I don't think it's mandatory. I think constructing a c-betting strategy with like 40% pot size or even 1/3 close to range bet is fine here. It really depends on how pre-flop ranges look like. I don't think this is necessarily a flop where we want to go for a huge size, although that's definitely a viable strategy as well. Okay, this is a very good card for us actually, because we are going to have the nuts, and villain is not, I mean, not the nuts. 5-2 is not the nuts because 5-7 is the nuts. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is that 5-2 is going to be in our check raising range quite a lot. 7-5 as well. We're gonna have, or at least we should have, some stuff like 3-6, 4-6 that villain is not really supposed to open. And then, our bluffs, some of our bluffs like backdoor flush draws or stuff like 5-6 also pick up equity. So this should be a very high c-betting frequency for us. It's just that, again, even though it's very high and we can bet a lot of our, two pairs and so on, and a lot of our bluffs, this might still be a bit too mergy to continue. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think again, I think this spot I would just end up checking. I think we did a nice job on the flop. We've achieved a lot, but then on the turn it does start to become a bit too thin. And I think we would just be, I just think it becomes too thin against villain's range.
Yeah, and also like checking accomplishes some things, right? Like you can call stuff like not queen ten of clubs because we blocked that, but queen ten of spades, let's say, or like king ten of spades or whatnot that he can, just start stepping with, and we get to bluff catch against those. So yeah, we can get value from hands that we just fold to a bet. So it's not like, we're checking, we're just giving up or never making money. There is merit to checking as well.
Yeah.
To be honest, I wouldn't hate going for something like a one third, maybe even half pot, 60% here. I think I think our hand is worth that because we're still against the button. You know, he's going to have lower 9x. He's going to have stuff like sevens or 5-6 or so on. That could call a bet, and I guess it all depends on how aggressive the opponent is. The more aggro I expect him to be, and the more I expect him to bluff. He's no showdown value hands in this spot. The more I like checking here. But if I'm against a passive opponent and I just expect him to like bet call, check back, and then check here with stuff like ace five or king five or whatnot, the more I prefer betting myself for something value. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. I definitely think this is worthy of a bet on the river. Um, but at the same time, I agree with you that it does depend on who we're playing against, because if they are the type of person to turn, their ace five into a bluff here, this just makes a nice bluff catch as well.
So let's see what happened.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a shame.
that's a shame, but I think the hand was played well. I think it was played fine. I would just pick a smaller size on the flop.
Yeah,
All right, should we wrap it up then? Anything
yeah.
else going on in the chat?
No, all good. Thanks everyone for being here. And as Alexandra said, we try to hold weekly sessions like this in our Discord, and we will be here again next week on Run It Once, holding another session. So hopefully see you guys there as well.
See you. Hope you enjoyed and hope this taught you something about check raise that you can implement in your games. Bye bye.